So let's talk about a little bit about JAB Holding, the acquirer, because one, I don't think anybody's ever heard of them. Two, they should have, though, because they keep buying consumer brands. And the other thing is, it almost seems like this deal at this price only could make sense for these guys.
That's actually a good way to put it. And I'm kind of glad you mentioned, too, the thing about this JAB Holding Company being relatively unknown. And I think that's almost by design because, this is an investment firm, first of all, that people should know. They manage the money of the Reimann family, which is one of the wealthiest families in Germany. I think when I checked, their net worth overall is something like $20 billion. The family's very private. They're known, pretty well known for two things I thought were interesting also, is that they do not get involved in the business affairs, and they also,
that's very Buffett-esque.
And they also, I think it was like when they turn 18 or something along those lines, they have to basically sign some type of agreement where they promise to stay out of the public eye. So overall, this is a very private family, and the thing is, JB previously has already really aggressively added to its coffee portfolio. So kind of what you're talking about in terms of the valuation, what they were willing to pay, when you look at JB's overall strategy, it starts to make a little bit more sense why they would pay that huge premium. Whereas before, they had already acquired brands like Pete's Coffee and Tea, Stumptown Coffee Roasters, Intelligentsia Coffee, Caribou Coffee, even the parent of like Einstein Brothers Bagels. So they're in this process right now of where they've built themselves into the number 2 player in terms of the world coffee or like packaged coffee market, which I think is already worth some like $80 billion. Number 1 is I believe Nestle still, but this kind
particularly in Europe.
Yes, and this will narrow the gap. And you have to think about the fact that, in 2013, JB purchased, I think it was the DE Master Blender, the coffee company, for $10 billion. Then last year, they joined that with the coffee business of Mundel's International to create Jacobs Do Egberts. So, they have this huge conglomerate now. And now, in addition to Keurig, where, Keurig, I think, at least within the U.S., where it dominates, it has like 80 to 90% market share in terms of the individual pod market and like 20% of the coffee market overall. This narrows that so that, I think for Nestle now, they'll command maybe like mid 20% of market share worldwide, and this gives JB maybe high teens. So again, they're narrowing that gap. This is a big strategic move for them to get access to Keurig's technology, to their U.S. presence, which the business might be weak currently, but that doesn't mean that it's not an opportunity for them to roll out Keurig brewers to Europe, where it currently does not compete at all.
Right.
And just get a bigger piece of that pie.
There's a lot of things, and this is what I meant by saying that this deal at this price, they're paying a growth multiple for not a growth company right now. Mm-hmm. Only makes sense for them because all of a sudden they have a bunch of different coffee brands, and this is just one thing they could do. They could throw in some pods, and you already have 20 million Keurig machines installed in the United States.
Yes.
And those pods I think it's something like 80% of Keurig's revenues. That's where the money is.
Yes.
So to roll those out and actually give that business a shot in the arm alone, I don't know. That could be.
Well, even if you consider, Keurig's had a lot of success doing these, kind of promotional partnerships. So, they have their Starbucks coffee in the pods, and
which may not last past this.
Yeah, but, with the new kind of competitive landscape now, where Starbucks is competing directly a lot of JB's a lot of their
Pete's Coffee
brands.
Yeah.
So whether that partnership continues, we'll have to see, but. Guess what? There's a whole new portfolio of brands now that Keurig can leverage into new pod offerings, new people or new customers to target, like we said, within Europe, for example, with these brewers, and definitely a big opportunity there. Whether it's worth that almost 30 times trailing 12-month earnings for the purchase price is another question.